Hi guys, it's BMW with another video, and in this video we're going to talk about my Z4 that now has 300,000 kilometers on the clock. So this is my Z4. This is the 2004 E85 model with 2.5 liter engine inside. So this version has M54 engine inside, which is a great engine, and this is one of the reasons why I've bought the car. So now that this car has 300,000 kilometers, I'm going to talk about what it is to maintain a BMW that is now 17 years old and it has so many kilometers on the clock. The first thing that is pretty apparent is that this car still looks really nice. I mean, I still get a lot of looks and taps on the shoulder and envy from my friends, so it is still accomplishing the mission, which is looking good and driving really fast. Well, not really fast, but very dynamic. So we're going to move from front to the back of the car, and we're going to go through each and every problem that I've encountered or fixed, so you could have an idea what is waiting for you if you are thinking about owning this car. So the first thing that you probably noticed is that it's missing a little bit of color here. So apparently this panel was fixed at one point and then repainted, and because I'm using my pressure washer to clean the car, it eventually started peeling off the color. So you can probably see that it looks really nasty, and there is another dent here at the front. So I am currently thinking about fixing this. I will probably take it to a proper shop and just let it fix it for me, because I don't want to deal with painting the car. It's really a pain in the ass, I think. So this is the first issue that we have here. So otherwise, very common issue on these cars is, especially if you lower the car, is the front bumper. So because the nose is so long, you always hit the curb when you're parking or when you are driving over stuff. If you have this car, there are no front parking assist or anything like that, or parking sensors, so you really have to be very careful not to damage the front lip of the bumper. So as you can see, it's pretty scratched up already, so there's really nothing you can do but to be careful. So yes, that is definitely something to worry about, driving over small obstacles. As you can see, the previous owner did attach the plate with silicone or something like that, and it's now starting to come off. I will have to fix that. And of course, all the BMWs come with insects as add-on. So this is pretty much it at the front. At one point, I think that the front headlights were polished and painted, because if you take a look here, you can see there's this I don't know what to call it, but it looks like that this clear coat is peeling off. So this is not very nice. I will see what I can do about it. But usually the headlights, they get damaged by the sun, and then you have to polish them and clean them with clear coat. There are plenty of videos online on how to do that. So expect to do that. I think that on my car it was done already. So as you can see, I also have a little bit of paint damage here from rock chips. So this is how it looks like. The rock hits the paint and then it starts peeling off. Here you can see this is the beginning of the same issue that we have on the other side. So I'm thinking about repainting this panel also. And of course, because the nose of this car is so long, you can expect this kind of damage. This is my fault when I was parking on my parking spot. I didn't account for the length of the car and I scratched it on a pillar, so nothing I can do about it now. Well, actually I am also thinking about repainting the whole front bumper at this point. So as you can see, the front hood is quite big. I think it's made out of aluminium. And then of course we have the wheels. These I think are the original rims. So I had to realign all four wheels a couple of times because the previous owner put a metal valve caps on the tires, and that threw off the balance of the tires, and that means that I was getting jittering at around 100 or 120 kilometers when I was driving on the highway. It's really annoying. You get this shaking on the steering wheel, and yeah, so I then had to go back to the shop and they removed the metal caps and recentered or rebalanced the tires, and now it drives smooth. I also had to replace the front brake discs because they were warped. Now I was probably driving too hard this car, and if you heat up the brakes and then you stop at the traffic light or intersection and you keep the car in place for a long period of time, then this differential of cooling can cause the discs to warp, and this is what probably happened because when I bought the car I didn't really had this issue, but after a while I did started to notice when I was driving fast and I slammed on the brakes. I could hear a lot of vibration and you could feel it in the steering wheel. So when I replaced the brakes, the discs, everything was back to normal. So this is what I had to do. But you know, this is just something that you have to expect with these cars. If you drive them hard, you will have to occasionally replace a part or two. So these are my 18-inch wheels. As you can see, the car is really dirty. I really do use it a lot. This is my daily car, my daily driver. I take it everywhere. So I'm really taking everything out of this car. You can definitely live with this car. It's not too bad. As you can see, this particular car is lowered. I think that it has Eibach springs at the front and at the back, and it also has Bilstein dampers. So actually I just had to replace this damper here on the right side. It was completely shot and the car was really driving terribly, so I really had to replace that, and now the car drives really well and it's really stable. Now I also replaced the whole front suspension, so all the control arms, the bushings, the tie rods and the linkages on the stabilizer bar. So I decided to do that because I didn't know what the state of the suspension was, and I really want this car to drive as good as it can. So I used Meyle parts, and the Meyle parts I think are really good for this application. I used the HD version, which means that they are strengthened. They should last longer in this application, and also the HD version of the control arms, they have replaceable ball joints, which means that you can just replace the joints, not the whole control arm. So I can really recommend that. Okay, so moving towards the back, yeah, I had an issue. I got rock hitting the surface of my windscreen, and it initially it was just like a chip, but then one very hot summer day we had sudden rain falling down and it cooled the windshield and it cracked. And when I got back to the car, the windshield was completely cracked. I had to replace the front windshield, which was not too expensive, surprisingly affordable. I think I paid about 280 euros for replacing the windshield. So this was done, and then we can move towards the back. As you can see, it has plenty of wear marks. So since I do use this car daily, it has a little bit of wear or bumps from people opening their car doors and hitting and nicking my car, which I really hate, but nothing you can do about it. So okay, moving towards the back. So at the back, nothing too special. I do have spacers. I think that they are 15 millimeter spacers at the back. I think that it really suits the stance of this car perfectly, so it's not too aggressive, but together with the lowering spring, it gives it a little bit of this sporty look from the side. Let me see if I can show you. So as you can see, the front is original, only lowered, and at the back we have spacers, so it looks kind of nice. I had to replace the rear tires because they were worn out, and I went with the Michelin Pilot Sport. So I think that this tire is really good for this application. So it works well in the cold and in the rain, and also on the hot tarmac. So I can so far definitely recommend this compound or this type of tire. So let's move to the back. Here you can see that this is also a very common issue. The tail light here on the tailgate is cracking. I think this is really common. So this is not due to somebody hitting the light, but it just cracks here. I don't know why. I've seen a couple of Z4s with this issue. So expect to replace this if you are buying an older car, but otherwise the back of the car looks okay. So here we have the antenna. This I don't think is original because it's kind of green color, and I think it should be like black. So yeah, this is the other side of the car, nothing special going on. And so let's open the trunk. Now, as you probably know, in this car you have to open the trunk with the use of a button, so there is no option of opening the tailgate with your hand, so you have to use your key. So the trunk has a lot of space. I currently live alone, so this is a totally usable car for a single person. Now if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, I don't care, it can be a little bit small, but from day-to-day use and for one person it's more than enough. I couldn't tell you how many times I've put stuff in here that I didn't really expect to be able to put in. And of course you have a little bit of extra space if you turn this knob here. Well, actually you can't because the roof is down, but if you turn this knob and this knob, then if your roof is up, you can elevate this ledge here and you get some extra space. So I don't know, to be honest, I never really needed that much space. If I needed more space, I just borrowed a car that had more space and I did the stuff that way. So it's totally usable. I mean, I was expecting that it will be an issue for me, but it really isn't at all. So this is really usable car given its size. Now let's take a look at the interior. In my case, it's gray with red leather, and I really have to say that this combination really looks nice and sexy, and this is my preferred setup or preferred trim. Now the bad side of this leather is that because this car is so old and it has so many kilometers, of course the leather is starting to wear down. As you can see, it started cracking quite a lot, so it can look kind of nasty, and to be honest, it is a bit nasty, but yeah, there's nothing really you can do at this point because it has so many kilometers, so many sweaty asses were on this seat. So I think it's holding up pretty well given the requirements. So here we can see this is quite a deep crack here, going all the way up. So yeah, you can expect this. If you have black seats, you can expect it to look a little bit nicer, but in my case, yeah, it is kind of a nasty looking. And I think that these seats were previously like restored or painted. I don't know, I think that the leather should look like this, as you can see. But if you take a look here, it looks like somebody tried to restore this leather, but at this point you will have to replace the seats or replace the leather if you want proper leather look and leather feel. But you know, for the price that I got the car for, it's well, you can live with it. I mean, usually the passenger doesn't really care because the passenger side is much nicer, so it still looks really nice. So yeah, it's not that bad on that side. Now the bad side of the leather seats, they get really hot during the summer, so you really have to use your protection for the windscreen so you block out the sun. What I also do is I carry a small spray bottle with normal tap water, and when I come back to my car and the seats are really hot, I just spray a little bit of water onto the seats, and the water evaporates and takes out a lot of heat, and then I just use a clean rag to dry off the water, and this kind of helps when you are just starting to go on a drive. But you know, it's not ideal, it's a little bit of work, but it sure is better than cooking your ass off in summer heat on these seats. So I really think it's funny because a lot of these cars, they come with seat warming, and you really don't need it unless you drive the car during the winter or maybe in medium climates like England. But here where I live, it doesn't really matter if you have heated seats because your ass is going to hell during the summer. So okay, so these are the seats. Then we have the interior. As you can expect, the carpets are kind of dirty. I am thinking about cleaning them with deep cleaner, but otherwise there's really nothing special going on. Here are the sides. The handles are still okay. Now the steering wheel, as you can see, the steering wheel had leather change. So the previous owner, he bought this kit that you can buy online, and he replaced or reupholstered the steering wheel, and I really have to say he did a very good job. This is I think this is not real leather, this is fake leather, but still it feels really nice, and I really recommend it to anyone who is thinking about buying the car. You can just buy this leather kit and put the leather on yourself, and then every time you touch the steering wheel you will actually have a feeling that you are holding something fresh and nice, and not something that was in other people's hands for you know, 10 or 15 years. So yeah, the steering wheel is still nice. Sadly, I don't have the multifunction here, but when you're driving fast you can't really listen to the music anyway, so it's okay. Then of course we have a couple of spots where the leather is also cracked, so here behind the emergency brake, and yeah, you can replace this part probably, it's not too expensive. But otherwise the interior, I have to say, it's well, if I compare it to E46 model, to my E46 compact that I have to say that interior in that car is a bit nicer in a way. I mean, the rattling in this car can be quite substantial. So yeah, in the normal 3 Series, it is much quieter. And here in this Z4, at least, it's quite rattly. So these air ducts here, they rattle a lot. Then you have your cup holders here. So everything kind of rattles. I don't know if you can hear this, but this is really annoying. So yeah, expect to have a lot of rattling in this car after so many kilometers. But otherwise, it's a okay interior, I would say. Now, the worst part of this particular car is this plastic here behind the cabin. And as you can probably see, this plastic is all broken in pieces. There's an extra screw here, and look at this nastiness here. So somebody used super glue or maybe an epoxy glue to glue this back together. And that's because this plastic here is so brittle that I literally broke a piece in half. So I was taking off this back piece here, and here you can see that it broke in half while I was just cleaning it with the towel. And this is how brittle this nasty plastic is. Now I am thinking about sourcing a new plastic part for this, but sadly this whole thing is in one piece, so it's quite expensive. So yeah, if you are taking apart anything in this car, just think about it really hard, because you might break a lot of plastic pieces and trims, and in the end you will end up with this. And this is also what is probably causing some of the rattles. If we take a look here, you can see that this is just kind of falling apart. So it's kind of nasty looking. So one of the things that I had to replace was the radiator, and of course the oil filter housing gasket and the oil pan gasket. Those are pretty standard on these cars. So my radiator broke here where the expansion tank is connected in this angle attachment. So it was just a tiny crack, and if I was driving the car hard, it started leaking coolant and it was spraying all over the place. You can see something like this kind of pattern. And I also had coolant here on the bottom of the hood. So yeah, again, you drive it hard, components are going to start to fail, but if you're not too race oriented, you should be fine. Now I also had to replace 2 of the coils because they went bad. This is again after a couple of years and heat cycles, the coils start to go bad and you just have to replace them. But otherwise I would say that again, this car is really nice to work on, because the engine is nice and free from obstacles, so you can work on it really easy. You have plenty of access to get to all the parts. You can see that here is like a giant gap and there's nothing really here. Oh, look what I found. I found something. I thought I lost it. Yay! Good thing that I made this video. So this is the cover that comes here. But unfortunately, one of the tabs is broken. So I will still have to get a new one. On this side, you can see that there's also plenty of room where you can inspect stuff and eventually fix it. So again, I really do recommend this car as a project. So you can buy a car that maybe has a lot of kilometers, but you can then fix it yourself, because all the parts are the same as in normal E86 BMWs and also some other models. So yeah, this engine still doesn't consume any oil. I mean, it does consume like half a liter of oil during the service intervals. So I do my service intervals between 10,000 and 12,000 kilometers, and I really don't need to top up any oil. It goes from max level to slightly above minimum, and that's perfect in my opinion for this kind of mileage. So these engines are really awesome engines. I can really recommend them. I had no issues whatsoever, so I just plan to enjoy this car for as long as it goes. I mean, what can you do? And then I also replaced the flex disc and the central support bearing. You can check my video on that. Then I also replace the rear CV axles and the bushings for the diff. All three bushings, they had to be replaced. One of the bushings, the rear one, was totally destroyed, so that was replaced. And I also cleaned the drain channels underneath the soft top. So this is also very important to do that, because if the drains get full of dirt, they clog up, and that can destroy your hydraulic pump that lives underneath this mechanism here. And when the oil level rises, the electrical motor is soaked in water, and then it starts to rust and eventually it dies. So this is a very important job, and while I was doing that, I also replaced the hydraulic fluid for the mechanism itself and topped it up. So now the soft top mechanism is okay. However, I am currently experiencing some issues. So the soft top doesn't come down all the way because the rear glass is sticking or is stuck on this edge here, and it won't fold all the way. So I have to use my hand and push the rear glass or the rear window towards the rear, and then the soft top closes. I will have to look into that and see what the issue is. I haven't been able to fix that at the moment. So this is pretty much it on this car. As you can see, I did have a lot of expenses, but to be honest, the maintenance is basically the same as on any E86 BMW from this era. So it has the same engine, the same transmission, the same differential, basically same rims, everything is the same, only the interior and the panels are a bit different. Also, almost all the electronics are the same as in E46 BMWs. So this is really a good car as a project car if you want to drive something nice and sexy and work on the car yourself. I can definitely recommend one of these cars. Now, if you can stretch the budget, definitely go for the 3-liter version. This is the 2.5, as I said. Now, it still is enough power. You can drive fast and have a lot of fun. But, you know, at the back of your mind, there's always this question, should I have bought a 3-liter version? Yes, you should have bought it. But nevertheless, if you got 2.5-liter version for a good price, it's well worth it. Okay, so driving the car, as you can expect, it's a bit firmer ride, but well, you can use it as a daily. It's not too bad, as long as your shocks are not shot like mine were. So as you can see, it still looks kind of okay, but it is beginning to show some age with this cluster and the display here. But to be honest, it's not that bad, because all the controls are still physical and they look kind of retro design. So even after 17 years, it doesn't look too nasty. I mean, if you take a look at newer BMWs and you see those displays, they are really nasty now, because the resolution is nasty and the software is nasty and everything is slow. And this car doesn't have that, and it's really simple, and it's a driver's car, so you don't deal, you don't fiddle with buttons and stuff like that, you just drive this car. And this is what I really like. It's just perfect balance between mechanical and electronic, so the electronics are not so complicated that you couldn't fix it or understand it. So yeah, I think this is a future classic. Okay, this is it for this video and my Z4 with 300,000 kilometers on the clock. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you are interested in more DIY videos on E85 or E46 BMWs with N46 or N42 engines, or even M54 engines like this one. So keep zen and continue the art of BMW maintenance.